rush coming, and Rodgers is hurt.
It looked like he might have landed on that right shoulder. That's Anthony Barr.
This is a story of how fate and the Minnesota Vikings of all teams helped to inspire the start of Chaotic Good.
I've heard bits and pieces, and some of it's folklore. So I'd love to hear the whole story.
This is Nora, a fellow Green Bay Packers fan.
Yeah, not just a Packer fan. Like, I'm an owner, I'm a partial season ticket holder, and I have a tattoo. Like, come on.
And even though she lives in Minnesota, thankfully, she picked the right team to root for years ago.
Like, why are you a Packer fan? When the woman was interviewing me for the newspaper, she said, so did you grow up in Wisconsin and, you know, you've been a Packer fan your whole life? And I said, no, I like good football. And I sat there and she just was like, wait, what?
This story started in 2017 with the Aaron Rodgers injury and didn't pick up until 2 years later in 2019. So apparently the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, which is a newspaper out of Minneapolis, included a picture of Anthony Barr injuring Aaron Rodgers in their highlights of the top Minnesota sports moments of the decade. So in 2019, I was sitting there and Packers fandom was pretty upset. And instead of responding with some negativity, I decided to do some chaotic good. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune, you know, putting that vitriol and that negativity out there, we decided to do something positive. So I found an amazing charity named Can Do Canines, which provided service dogs for people in need. And I saw that for $3,000, you could name a puppy. So I went online, I created a video, and I was like, listen, here's how we're gonna get back at them. They have this thing called a Name a Puppy program. And I said, ooh, that's interesting. And we raised $3,000 to name a puppy. Now, at that time, I did not have many subscribers, far less than 100,000, and we weren't able to raise the total $3,000, so I had to chip in a little bit. We are going to take a Minneapolis-based charity, and we're gonna raise $3,000 and name one of their dogs Lambeau. I will receive the picture of said puppy. That picture of said puppy will go on this desk, and so we can look at it every single frackin' day, and every single time we record an episode. At that point, they started sending me the picture, so like I have Lambeau as a puppy, and throughout the years, like they have sent me a card like every single year.
That's amazing. I've not seen those cards at all.
I kept every single picture. Puppies. When they told me that Lambeau went to a Packers fan, I was like, oh, well, this is like serendipitous. Like, this is phenomenal. And so Can Do Canines reached out to me recently saying that Lambeau was ready to graduate, and that is how I met Nora. I had an interview with her earlier this week, and we immediately hit it off. Of course, connecting over our love of the Green Bay Packers, but to kind of also just sit there in awe of just the pure circumstances and coincidences that led to this.
In November of 22, I was like looking around at service dogs. I had heard there's mobility assistance, and I was like, what? Could I possibly get a dog? You know, what? So I looked into it, and Can Do was the best organization that I found for a few reasons. And so on my birthday, I was like, okay, here's my birthday present. They say it could take 2 to 4 years. And so I was like, okay, I mean, I'll throw my hat in the ring, and who knows, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. And so, end of July, they called me, Can Do called and said, we have a match. It's all good. And so I was like, okay, we have a match. And so, and they had no idea I'm a Packers fan. Like they had no clue that she's been in my house. I wear Packers stuff a lot. Anyhow, so she had no idea. So they're like, okay, he's a boy and he's 75 pounds and he's a black lab. And I'm like, okay, cool. She called and I was at work and so my coworker was there and she's like, are you ready for the name? And I was like, yes, I'm ready. I'm going to put it on speaker for my coworker who knows my Packer craze, but is not a fan herself. So she's like, okay, well, he's a lab. And, well, I was like, Jenny, I know all this. Tell me his name. She's like, well, I just, well, I really, really hope that you're not anti-Packer. And of course, at this point, I'm waiting for a name like Charlie or Buster or something, right? And I was like, anti-Packer, what?
Yeah.
I was like, Jenny, I love the Packers. She's like, thank God, because someone paid a lot of money to name him Lambeau. And my coworker and I just are like, what? And because we said what, she was like, wait, is that good? Is that bad? She still didn't know at that point. We're still just like exploding. And she's like, I don't know what this means. We said, no, this is the right match. You just made.
No, you got the right dog. So do you remember when in September it was?
Yep, September 22nd is when he moved in. And then 3 weeks before that is when we started training.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it was on my birthday, because I'm a mid-September baby. So I was like,
when's your birthday?
September 16th. So
okay,
then I was like, them stars are really, but okay, so that's
Look
incredible.
at birthdays. Like it happened, I applied on my birthday. You got notice on your birthday. Like, look,
That's it. No, that's meant to be. We as a community raised a bunch of money to help somebody out. And of course, there's a little bit of an edge to it to try and get back at the Minnesota Vikings. But something even better happened. And it took 5 years to come to fruition. And now Nora has Lambeau, a diehard Green Bay Packers fan who now has her forever pup. I mean, that's pretty incredible. That's incredible because there was like a little part in the back of my mind. I was like, oh man, like the dog's gonna go to a good home, right? Like Lambeau's like, oh, it goes to a Vikings fan. It's like, yeah, I like the dog, but I don't love the dog.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this worked out so well.
It's a match made in heaven, and everyone else says it's a match made in Lambeau. And I was like,
Same thing.
So yeah, this is like just really, really cool.
How has it been like so far, just like having him in the house and having him around?
So yeah, that's the other like thing that he does for me that's not a command or a skill, is just being a emotional support dog or providing companionship, right? Like all dogs do. So not necessarily the emotional support part, but just, like having a dog, right? Yeah. So there's that joy of it as well.
And I wanted to do a video on this, not just because Ken do Canines and Nora and the story is amazing, but because you don't have to have thousands and thousands of subscribers to help somebody. Chaotic Good isn't just about 30 and 30 and raising $500,000 for charity to help sick kids. No, sometimes it's one action, it's one decision to kind of lead with kindness, or in this case, trying to get back at the Minnesota Vikings, which proves it always pays off. And just showing how much good can be done. Because for Nora, this has changed her life. Because a lot of times at Chaotic Good, we find a really great charity, we give them a whole bunch of money, we don't do it for recognition, and then we move on to the next one. So we don't always hear the stories or really understand the impact of us donating money to these amazing organizations. And this was an opportunity to hear a story about how one person's life has been forever changed because of this, for the better. And they just happened to be a Packers fan because one random Packers fan in New York decided to name a dog Lambeau in 2019. And if that ain't chaotic good, then I don't know what is. So as this thing continues to grow, Chaotic Good is just going to grow with it. We're going to be able to donate more money to more causes and help more people, all while loving the game of football.
The future of someone with MS is always uncertain, right? I mean, everyone's is uncertain. We never know. But it adds another level of uncertainty when you have MS. And having him and knowing that he's growing with me and my needs, it just gives a peace to that whole uncertainty.
And in one final twist, the original paper, the Star Tribune, that posted that article that featured Aaron Rodgers getting injured and highlighting it as one of the best sports moments in Minnesota history.
Yesterday, the Star Trib came, which is our local newspaper. They came to do an article on Lambeau and I at school. And so we're going to be featured in the variety section in the Star Tribune on April 6th. So I'm just like, okay, buddy, you are now a star, right? Like, everyone's like, don't let his head get too big. And I said, it's already huge. It's already huge. He's just got a big head anyway. So yeah.
Call it coincidence, call it fate, I call it chaotic good.
So this has been like just serendipitous, and the layers on layers that just are coming together, and it's great.
So once again, I cannot thank you enough, because this community constantly surprises me with their generosity, with their eagerness to help, and sometimes it's just fate. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi, and as always, go Pack Go.